Okay, now I've already soldered the bezel on here because I was doing a live feed, but we're going to do another one just so we can show you soldering it on. Okay, I have my joint all cleaned up, so it's not going to show. It's best, like I say, to do that before you mount it. I have my plate. It's nice and flat. It's clean. I stamped the back side of it so that it has a maker's mark now, and it has the mark for the type of jewelry. It's sterling silver. Your stamps just look like this, and if you get a maker's mark, it would look like whatever you want your maker's mark. And get you a brass hammer for stamping. It'll save on the end of your stamps, especially if they're design stamps. A lot of them get hit pretty hard. Okay, what we're going to do is we've sanded this flat like shows in part 1. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to coat the top side of this with flux, and we're going to coat this with flux, and then I'll position some solder. Okay, we've got our pieces all fluxed up. We have our solder positioned around the inside of this bezel. Now it's time to solder it together. Now whenever you solder, you want to make sure that the tip of your torch goes around the edge of this, not on top of your bezel, but around it, and then you'll heat in the center. We'll start out heating on the bottom, but first we've got to heat and dry the flux so it doesn't take our solder out of position. But always make sure you have your solder pick ready just in case you need to put it back where it goes. Alright. Now we want to make sure that the metal gets most of our heat. Now watch your flux, how it froths up white first. It's drying. Once it gets all the liquid out of it, we'll come back around on this side. Now we're going to just try to heat our whole plate. Now you notice your flux turning dark. Okay, and then it's going to start clearing up. When it starts clearing up, that's going to mean it's temperature's up there close to 1100, so you're getting close to the amount of heat it's going to take to melt your solder and solder it together. Now your solder is going to flow towards the hottest part of your metal, so you want to make sure that when you get up to your solder points, you want to have your metal hottest towards the outside. If you have your bezel hotter, then your backing plate, your solder is just going to jump up on your bezel and you won't have a good solder joint. Okay, it looks like our solder is starting to go. It's flowing in. Okay. And that should do it. Okay, now we're back to our original piece. Now I didn't mention, whenever you solder this bezel to the back plate, you're going to be using medium solder. You used hard on your joint, and you use medium on soldering to the backing plate. That way you don't melt your joint loose on your original bezel joint. Now I've got me a piece of pattern wire. This is a pattern bead wire, and I filed one in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this around this trim, and how we do that, the easiest way is you get a pair of forceps and you get some that don't have teeth in them. If you have teeth, they're going to make grooves on your stuff, on your work. But if you take this set of forceps and you just clip it on there, it'll hold it in place, and you can take a dowel and you can work this wire all the way around until you get to the other side, and then you're going to trim it off. Okay, I have it all trimmed down. I took and cut off a little bit extra with my flush cutting pliers, and then I took a file, just a small one, and I cleaned up the edges so when it comes together, I want it to come together and where it won't be noticeable once I'm finished. Now what we'll do is we'll flux this up and we'll solder it with a small snippet of hard solder, just enough to solder it. We don't want to take away any of our detail. Okay, we have our small tip on again. We have our little piece laid up underneath there, and we're going to do this the same way. We're going to kind of heat our block up here, and then we're going to dry our flux out. And we just have a little bitty snippet up under there, like I say. But once your flux gets dried out good, and you've got your whole piece heated, because we want to get this to where it's dead soft when we quench it. Now we're going to heat this area here. We draw our solder up in there, and that's it. Now we'll just quench it, and then we'll pickle it. Okay, I've checked it for fit. I've got it the shape reshaped so it fits fine, and made sure that it fit on there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece, we're going to flux up both pieces and install this, and then we'll position some pieces of some snippets of medium solder around the outside edge. Okay, we have our solder placed there, we have everything fluxed. Make sure that your trim ring is all the way down, and make sure you have your solder pick in your hand. Okay, we're going to heat this whole piece up, but remember, we don't want our solder to flow towards the outside. Now we're going to try to dry this, and as it dries and our solder moves, we'll use our solder pick to put it back. But we're going to heat this whole piece up. Notice it frosts up first. I have a lot of flux there. Then it's going to start going down. It's going to turn dark. Once it starts to clear up, I'll put my little pieces of solder that moved out of place back where they go. I'll just push them right back onto the edge. Now I have one that seems like it wants to sit up on top. We'll try to coax it back down where it goes, but we'll put them all back into place so they're right up there tight against the edge. I still think we got this one, doesn't want to be right there. Okay, now it's dried. We don't have to worry about them moving again. We're going to go around here, we're going to heat this outside up, and we're going to heat the inside up. When we heat the outside, we're heating this block too, so it doesn't suck all the heat out. Once things starts clearing up, now your solder's going to want to flow. Okay, solder's starting to flow now. I'm going to go around the outside, but I'm going to tilt my heat in onto where I want my solder to go, because it's going to go where it's hot. And make sure that your piece is down everywhere. If it isn't, go ahead and push it down now. And now, just same as always, quench it, pickle it, and we'll inspect it. Now I have no intent of adding anything else to this, so this would be the point, unless you're going to add other little details to the outside or something. This would be the point, at the point that you'd cut this off, and you can either do this with a saw, you could saw it off, which they call piercing. Just cut around fairly close to where you want the edge of this to be. That's all in your design, and then you'll file it back smooth wherever you want it. Or you can use some shears and shear it off. Now if you use shears, make sure that you don't have them held at an angle that tend to bend this edge as it cuts. And also make sure that if you have a real wide corner, don't cut in close with your shears, because it tends to want, that metal's thick, it doesn't want to roll as you shear it, it wants to bend the whole piece. So be aware of that. Okay, I've cut it down and I've filed off what I'd like to file off around. Now I want to touch on files a little bit. Now this file here, and it's just a kit from Rio Grande, but this file here, it has teeth on this side, but it doesn't have any on either one of these. And what this is used for is you can go right between your detail, like your bead pattern wire, and take this little edge off from filing that you have right here without scratching up your bead. So be aware of the use of these different files. Now, as I do a video, I'll try to bring you up to speed. And once you do all that filing too, just slightly go and take your burr off this edge around here. Just take it off, and then come back with your sanding stick and clean this edge up. You want to clean it up, but don't sand on your pattern wire there. But anyway, that should help you out a little bit. Okay, that should cover putting your bezel on your backing plate. Now the next video we'll move on to making a bell.